Hello everyone, how are you today?
Hi, Vicky. Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. All right, I think I'm going to make a start. Okay, Reb is here as well if you want to put questions in the chat, but also if you want to say something, you can just feel free to call out and I will stop talking. All right. Oh, all right. So we're up to week 4 already. And this week we're looking more at how learning happens. So in the first 3 weeks, we looked more at development, child development. And then in the second 3 weeks, we're going to look more at how the learning actually happens and how we can plan learning. So today we're going to look at 5 major learning theories and see how they explain what teachers actually do in the classroom. And hopefully that will be helpful for your second assessment piece, which you'll all be getting ready for now. But hopefully you'll have a little break before you jump into that. So to start off, we're going to do the acknowledgement of country. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and learn, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I also extend that respect to any First Nations people joining us today. Okay, so assignment 1's handed in. How exciting. And now we're moving on. So the overview of the hour is going to be, we're going to sort of move now from developmental things into, oh, actually this is for the rest of the unit, not for the hour. So first 3 units were child development. This one is going to be learning in practice. And then the 2 last ones, module 5 and 6, is motivation and regulation and universal design for learning. So I have a Menti. I've only got a couple of Mentis today, but I'll pop it in the chat because it can make it a bit easier to participate when you're in a big group. So there is the link if you would like to open it in another tab. And I will just put the number in as well in case you like to use it on your phone. So think of a time when you learned something well. What made that learning stick? Did you practice a lot, or did you have someone explain it really clearly? Was it figuring it out on your own? What sort of things help things stick in your mind? Interest is a good one. When we're interested in things, it's much easier to learn about them. Hands-on experience, that's a good one too. Clear explanation. Focus. Relevance, yeah, relevance is important. Okay, awesome. Some good ideas coming through there. So some of these ideas are capturing the things that we're going to look at today. So things like reinforcement, thinking, motivation, social interaction, discovery. Each one of those is emphasized in one of the learning theories that I've picked out for this week. So let's have a look. So I've included 5 theories this week. So it feels like a bit of a jump from previous weeks, but some of them are recapping things we've already seen. So hopefully that will make it a little less daunting. So the first one there we've got is behaviorism. And that focuses on what learners do and how reinforcement or feedback shapes that behavior. So you might see this used in places like a token economy. And because it's more about what learners do, it's usually about the behavior. So things like lining up at the door when the bell goes, or putting your chairs up on the table at the end of the lesson, or whatever other sort of routine behavioral things, staying in your seat for certain periods of time, that kind of thing. It doesn't have to be a whole class thing. It can be individual things as well. So, and then we've got cognitivism, which looks inside your brain and how we take in the information. So this is directly related to the information processing theory that we looked at a couple of weeks ago, how we think about it and how we store it in our memory. Then you've got humanism, and that reminds us that people are, you know, multidimensional beings. They have, you know, motivation, emotion, belonging, all of those sorts of things, needs that they must have fulfilled to feel safe and all of that kind of thing. Then we come back to social cultural theory, because it's a theory of development as well as a theory that we use for learning and teaching. So that emphasizes that we learn with and from other people through language and culture and collaboration. And then the last one that I have put into this week is constructivism. And it sort of relates back to cognitivism, in that it's happening in your brain, it's happening individually, and it focuses on how learners build their own understanding through experiences and reflection. So none of these theories is right or wrong. They're just looking at their observations from different perspectives. In the classroom, in a real classroom, you are constantly blending all of these things together. They're not separate things, okay? So you use structure and you use feedback from behaviorism. You use clarity and organization from cognitivism. You use connection from humanism. You use collaboration from social cultural, and you might have some discovery or exploration activities from constructivism. So you're using all of these. Over the next couple of slides, I'm going to go through what each one looks like in practice. And a bit later, we'll look at one classroom case study and interpret it through those 5 separate lenses to see if we can understand different things about the same moment. All right, so we've got the case study, Yuki and the fractions. Yuki is 10 and often rushes through maths tasks and makes small errors. Today, the class is learning to compare fractions with different denominators. The teacher has students cut paper pizzas into slices, then share how many pieces make a half or a quarter. Yuki joins a group but quickly grows frustrated when the pieces don't line up neatly. The teacher moves around the room, offering prompts and encouragement. Now, from a behaviourist perspective, we're focusing on what we can observe and the things that the learners are doing and how those actions change in response to consequences. So a behaviourist might look at Yuki's frustration and rushing as a pattern of behaviour that can be shaped. And the teacher's role might be to reinforce helpful actions and redirect unhelpful ones. So for example, the teacher might praise Yuki for cutting carefully or checking answers. Nice job making equal parts. That's what mathematicians do. Or provide immediate success step. Try folding the circle first, and then that'll make it nice and even. And maybe avoid over focusing on mistakes, which could inadvertently reinforce rushing just to escape the task. So in this view, learning happens because certain behaviors like careful measuring or checking are strengthened through feedback and repetition. So behaviorism gives us a powerful tool for classroom management and routines and skills practice. But it can often overlook what's happening inside the learner's brain because it's relying more on external things we can see and things that we can reward. So it might not be as useful in some situations. So you might not get a full picture about the confusion or the meaning behind the learner's actions. All right, so a little quick check. When the teacher praises Yuki for checking each slice, this is an example of, so this is a bit of a trick one because when you look at the readings for behaviorism, they talk about punishment and reward and negative reinforcement and positive reinforcement. So I was just throwing this in as a little retrieval from the readings. So it's okay if you haven't done the readings. Have a guess anyway. All right. And the answer is positive reinforcement. Awesome. So positive reinforcement is when we add something positive right after the behavior happens. So it could be praise, could be a privilege, could be a sticker. The key is that the consequence makes it more likely that Yuki will do it again. Okay. If it were negative reinforcement, that would be strengthening behavior by removing something unpleasant. So, if they got it right and we said, okay, well, now you don't have to do your homework, that would be negative reinforcement. Okay, so the negative and the positive are about adding versus removing. All right, so I'm going to move on now to cognitivism, which is the information processing theory. Okay, so we already had a little bit of a look at that a couple of weeks back. From this perspective, learning isn't just about practice or reward. It's about how efficiently you can move new information through the working memory into the long-term memory. So a that's a hard word for me to say. Cognitivist might notice that this fractions task has several competing demands. She's got to remember all the steps. She's got to keep track of all the pieces representing which fraction. She's got to listen to the group. She's got to cut accurately. So maybe that's just too many things to juggle. And the teacher might help by reducing the cognitive load. So maybe breaking the task into smaller parts and providing clear worked examples, or prompting with cues equal size, not equal number. That will free up some working memory to focus on the actual concept, okay? And with practice, Yuki will build the schemas, which is the connected mental frameworks. And then in future, she'll be able to draw on the framework, okay? So in this view, mistakes aren't failures. They're signals that information hasn't yet been organized or linked strongly enough, okay? And whenever you're learning anything new, there'll always be mistakes. So how often do you notice students struggle because they're trying to remember too many things at once? Is this something you see a lot or not really very much? Okay, so that feeling of overload is what the cognitivists are trying to manage. Okay, so they're clarifying instructions and they're chunking the content, they're giving time for rehearsal, and we're going to look more about schemas and cognitive load in the tutorial. So if you already have been to the tutorial, we've already done that. And if you're yet to come, that's what's happening in the tutorial. All right, so we're going to shift focus again, and this time we are looking at what's in Yuki's heart. Okay, so humanistic theories remind us that learners aren't just brains processing information. They're whole people with emotions and needs and goals. And from this perspective, learning happens best when students feel safe and valued and capable. Okay, so motivation to learn grows when they believe their effort matters and when the classroom feels supportive. So maybe in Yuki's case, the paper pizza activity is fine cognitively, but if frustration or embarrassment creeps in, those emotions can block learning. And the teacher can respond in simple human ways, acknowledge Yuki's effort. I can see you're really concentrating on those equal parts, and offering reassurance. Well, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just exploring the idea and, celebrating small progress. We've got a question? Okay, no question? All right. So humanists shift our attention to motivation and belonging. So reminding us that emotional safety and autonomy are not just add-ons to learning. They're like preconditions. Okay, we need to have those so that it can happen. All right. Okay, and then I've got a little segue here. It says, of course, learning isn't something students do alone. It happens through interaction, which includes talking and modeling. So let's have a look at social cultural theory. So this is one that we've seen before. So we've mentioned Vygotsky in a few different modules. And I found a slightly different picture of the zone of proximal development that I quite liked. So I've given you a different way of looking at today. So instead of looking inside Yuki, we're looking around Yuki at the people and the language and the culture shaping the learning. So social cultural theory is drawing from Vygotsky's work and says that learning happens first between peoples and then within the individual. So in other words, understanding grows through the interaction. So from this perspective, Yuki's fraction task isn't just an individual problem solving, it's a social event. The teachers and the peers and even the tools, the things that we're using to manipulate, so the little paper pizzas and the vocabulary, they're all part of the learning environment. And when Yuki works with the classmates and listens to their reasoning or explanations out loud, the social exchanges help build internal understanding. And you've probably noticed yourself that if you try to explain something to somebody else, you really have to understand it, because you'll get halfway through saying it and your brain will go, hang on a minute, that's not right. So that's an important learning strategy for yourself as well, to try to explain it. So in this situation for the teacher, the job is to find where the zone of proximal development is. Where is it possible with guidance rather than not possible even with guidance? Okay, so we've got to find that little sweet spot there. So that might involve some modeling, fold it like this and then cut it like this, or prompting. What about if you try folding it and, something like that? Or, there might be other more knowledgeable students in the group with Yuki, okay? And they can be acting as MKOs as well. So the goal for social cognitive theory is scaffolding. Gradually remove the supports as the independence grows, so that you can, move forward into the future there. Okay, I think I've got a Menti next. Oh, I know what this is. This is a little game. This is a little game I put together. where we're going to, it's like a Kahoot. So Minty has little Kahoots as well. I remember now. All right, you ready to go? So these are always me just doing the retrieval practice. Okay, so let's go. Are you seeing something on your screens? Because I'm not seeing anything on mine. 3 seconds. The correct answer is scaffolding. Oh, that's right. I put it in as a writing one. Scaffolding. Very good. Scaffolding is the answer. So with a form of scaffolding. All right. Let's do the next question. I'm sure there was another one. Oh, there wasn't. I thought there was a whole bunch there. Okay, constructivism is learning through active construction. So constructivism is the idea that the learners don't just receive knowledge. Sadly, we can't just open up their brain and pour it in. They have to consciously build it themselves. Okay, so in Yuki's fraction lesson, the teacher isn't simply telling students that 2/4 equals a half and then they just know it. Instead, she's trying to guide them to discover it by cutting and comparing and folding and discussing. So Yuki can experiment and she can make errors and adjust and gradually reconstruct that understanding. So constructivists see these productive mistakes as essential. Every wrong attempt gives new information that refines the learner's mental model. And the teacher's role is design experience that let the learners explore safely but purposefully and without overloading their working memory, which is what we're going to talk about in the tutorial. So you've got to provide just enough structure so that the exploration leads somewhere meaningful. All right, I've got a quick discussion prompt. What are the benefits and the risks of this kind of open-ended learning? Do you want to type some answers in the chat? I don't have a Menti for this. What do you think might be the benefits or risks? Or you could chat, you can just talk to me, turn your microphone on if you want to say something about that. Not enough explicit teaching. And how would explicit teaching make it better, Alison? Check, yeah, clarify the concepts to prevent misconceptions. So something it might be really engaging for some students, but there might be confusion, okay? They don't know what to do. So benefits and pros and cons. Everything's got pros and cons, benefits and risks. Okay, so let's bring Yuki back into view. Same lesson, 5 very different interpretations. Behaviorism, notice what Yuki did. So the visible behavior and how it can be reinforced. Cognitivism noticed how Yuki was processing the information, so managing attention and memory, and we'll talk more about that in the tutorial. Humanism noticed how Yuki felt, so the motivation for her doing it and emotional safety is going to shape the learning. Social cultural theory notices the interaction, the way that the support and collaboration between people can build understanding. And constructivism noticed how Yuki was making sense of the experience by testing and refining ideas through exploration. So all of the views, all of the different theories are useful, but on their own, each one of them is a little bit incomplete. So that's why when you're in the real classroom, you're going to be doing all of these different things at once. Okay, you're going to build routines, you're going to provide feedback, you're going to design clear, well-sequenced lessons. You need to try to be nurturing and motivating, make sure all your students belong, and you're going to use some active learning things, try to keep curiosity alive and all of that sort of thing. All right, if you had to pick one of these lenses that you naturally lean towards, which one would it be? So there's no right answer here. Just which one do you think you lean on the most out of all of those? We've got a bit of a strong support for social cultural and a fairly even support about cognitivism, humanism, and constructionism. That's awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, so that's all I really wanted to talk about today. So we've looked at one sort of familiar classroom moment, and we've tried to look at it through the 5 different lenses and see how each different theory is going to highlight something unique. Okay, but behaviorism is giving us structure and feedback. Cognitism is the information processing, so we're thinking about managing information and helping memory. Humanism reminds us that, you know, they're little human beings and we need to help them stay motivated and make sure they feel like they belong. Social cultural, which was a very popular one there, focused on learning through interaction. It's all of that group work and stuff that we try to get students to do that's a very important part of learning. And obviously we all like the active learning as well. We want to encourage students to be curious and discover things and all of that. So in the tutorial, we're going to look more closely at the cognitivism. We're going to look at cognitive load theory, and we're going to look at constructivism and how it can be sometimes misinterpreted. I saw a comment before there about not enough direct teaching, and you'll notice that a lot of the documents these days from the education department and places like that are focusing more on explicit teaching and direct teaching rather than exploratory things. And I'm going to talk to you about why that is and what it means in the tutorial. So I'm going to stop sharing so that I can see you all again and see if you have any questions.
Which one do you lean towards, Vicky, of the 5?
I guess it's a mixture of cognitivism and constructionist, because I think that is how your brain works. The science says that that's how your brain works, that information processing theory. And we do have to construct our own knowledge. I can't just look at something that somebody else has done and it goes into my brain. So when I teach in the classroom, my teaching is very experiential. I like to give them lots of activities to do, but I also explicitly teach all the things I want them to know before they do the thing. So I guess it's what I said in the tutorial this morning is the way that I lead. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the TTT approach, the test, teach, test?
Yes, yeah. Yes, I am. Yes. It's similar. And it's really, I think, using that retrieval practice thing. The test at the start is for linking prior knowledge. So initially for the students, it's going to help link their prior knowledge, activate their prior knowledge. And for the teacher, it's going to give you some direction about what their prior knowledge is. And then you're going to teach it. And then you're going to test and see. It's really just part of self-regulation, which I'm going to talk to you about next week, I think. You have the beginning, you have the middle, and you have the end. So you have goals at the beginning, which you've gotten through this pretest. You have the practice in the middle where you're teaching them the stuff. And then you have the evaluation at the end. How did it go? And that, for me, I don't like to call it a reflection. In the initial research, it was called a reflection, but I found, at least when I was teaching in high school and even in university, students get tired of hearing the word reflection and they tune out when I say we're going to reflect on that. And so I call it an evaluation because I'm a scientist and I say, let's get some data. Let's get some data on that. And that's just my personality because I'm a scientist. A person who is more of a humanities person might come at that a different way.
I see. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Vicky. It's
Yeah.
Tanu. Actually, Vicky, I faced problem in week 2 and 3. I couldn't join the evening class from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I tried many times, but I couldn't join the evening class.
Okay, I don't know why that would be, but the recordings are there if you want to go back and watch them.
Yeah, I watched that recording, but what will happen today? Because it happened same. I joined in the workshop class 2 to 3 p.m., but I couldn't join into the next class 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. because it was showing some error.
I don't know what that would be. It might be something you have to take a screenshot and send it to IT and get some help with that. I don't really know that much about Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Hi, Vicky. I just had a question related to the assessment, please.
Yep.
So it is a case study, but I saw the case study writing guide on the SCU, the one that you posted in the assessment booklet, and it says it either needs to be an essay or a report. So I just planned out my entire assessment, and I basically gave it headings, and I'm not too sure if you'd be okay with headings, like one for introduction, one for the classroom context, and then one for the restorative learning. But then the restorative learning practices are further under subheadings for each of the points that you've asked for. Is that okay? Or should I just remove the headings and it should be like one paragraph transitioning into another and basically a very cohesive kind of a thing? If you can just tell me.
Let me defer to Reb on that because Reb's done marking in this subject before. So I'm just going to defer to Reb.
Did you specifically say what headings?
So I'm planning on doing the introduction, like so how the assessment task brief is laid out. So it clearly asks for an introduction, and then it's asking for a classroom context, and then under the restorative learning strategies or teaching techniques, it has 3 or 4 points that we need to address. So I wanted to ask that can I place them under headings and then subheadings? And then, because then it's going to divide my work into particularly very focused areas, that here I'm talking about this thing, and the marker would read the heading and they would know that, all right, so I'm going to be discussing this here. But if that is not how, because I've never written a case study before, so that's why I was a bit confused.
I've marked papers that are both ways. I've marked papers that only have those introduction and then context, and then there was something at the end. I can't remember what it was. I think there was another heading. And I've marked papers that have like a heading for each section, and either is fine. Either is fine, because when your markers are marking, the thing that's really guiding us is the rubric. So,
Okay.
Yeah, let's
so whether you have headings or not, would be of lesser importance than if you've hit all of those criteria that are on the rubric.
Wouldn't that affect our flow and structure?
If
Let's have a look.
well,
I'll get the
I mean, you
rubric.
can write it well in you know, essay form without headings.
But if we choose to keep the headings, it won't negatively impact our structure or flow.
Not if they're used wisely.
Yeah, I mean, we're
That's
not
that's a
just
very good answer.
sprinkling.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
we're
that's
not just
what I'm
sprinkling the
saying.
headings.
I've seen papers done both ways, and you know, if every paragraph has a heading, then that wouldn't be ideal. But you know, also no headings can work quite fine as long as you've got great paragraph structure and you have really great topic sentences. Anyone that's in my tutorial gets this drummed into them, the TEAL paragraphs, TEEL. So one main point per paragraph or one main topic per paragraph.
Yeah.
The opening line is your topic sentence for that paragraph. Then you have your elaboration and your evidence, which is your resources and your references. And then you have your linking sentence at the end, which is for cohesion, to link it through to the following paragraph. So if you have amazing paragraph structure, it should read well even without headings.
I just want to point out that the writing style is only 5% this time. So much less on the second assignment because we're hoping that you're good at it by then. And then the balance is spread out a lot more over the things that we want you to make sure you hit on. So make sure you're looking at the rubric and looking at each of the separate things. And yeah, the writing style is only 5%. So unless you do something drastically wrong with writing style, I think you'll be okay.
Okay.
The
And
thing
just
is
one more
too,
thing.
with writing at this level and with assignments at this level, course conveners don't like to be too, or unit assessors don't like to be too prescriptive about, you know, exactly how you go about it, because we want to see your ideas and your creativity coming through. So, I mean, obviously don't go nuts and put in something totally left field, like a, you know, a table or something like that. But your academic writing ability, you know, should be coming through without people needing to be overly prescriptive about how it's written. Does that make sense, Vicky? Am I off base?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Am I
No,
on
no,
base?
that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just one more question. So when I'm writing about how I would approach the problems, I am to write in first person. Is that correct?
Is this a first person one, Reb?
Give me a minute.
Because I had a look at the exemplar and
Yeah.
they are writing completely in third person.
Yep.
And then there's a line in the exemplar, I think on the very first page, that says that this assessment was written entirely in third person. It is important that you write in the context of your classroom. So that is first person.
It would be. Yes, okay. So it is explicitly saying there, for example, as the teacher, I would
Yeah.
in my classroom with my students. So they want you to write it in first person.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, this is a first person one, and you need to be very explicit and specific about what you would do for certain individual students or groups of students. So the main goal here in this classroom is it says that you've noticed the class is not socially cohesive. So the focus of your case study is to get these three groups of students, the Indigenous students, the Sudanese students, and the Anglo-Celtic students, to mix more because they're hanging in their language groups at the moment. So pretend this is your real class. Pretend you've got these students in your class and tell us what you would do if you saw, and you see this in tutorials sometimes. You see people sitting in groups with their language groups. It's a fairly natural thing for people to do. So if you were the teacher in this classroom, how would you mix those language groups? How would you make sure they're making friends across language groups and interacting across language groups? So you have to really imagine yourself in that scenario and use first person and be very prescriptive about what you would do. Don't be too general, be very specific.
If we have a practical historical context to draw upon, such as experience, are we allowed to use that in reflecting and comparing it to what we've acquired with our new knowledge during this course and say what we would have done? Is that allowed, or we have to remain strictly hypothetical?
Sorry, I just realized I haven't got my video on. I mean, obviously, it's almost impossible to not draw upon personal experience, but you wouldn't use that as a reference point. Do you know what I mean? Like, you still need to be referencing resources as to where you've got your ideas from and why what you're doing is a good idea based on research, based on the readings, based on the theories.
But if we wanted to put like a footnote of how we've tried to implement that, say in past classes, and it's failed, and we find it has shortcomings here and here, we should leave that out, or?
I honestly would say that could impinge on valuable word count.
Mm.
Yeah, you're best off, getting maximum return on investment for your word count and making sure that all of the words that are in your essay or report, however you choose to structure it, is actually contributing to you, getting as best of an achievement as you can according to the rubric criteria. So you're better off saying what you would do rather than what you wouldn't do, I guess, is a short way of saying everything, with references to the relevant theories from this term.
Yeah, because you've got to remember that this subject is the theory subject. So we want to make sure that you are referencing the theories.
And it's really easy to get, really, I'm the same, you get really passionate and go down rabbit holes and, get really excited with your assignment and actually forget that the purpose of the assignment is to demonstrate what you've learned from the content in this particular unit. So a good way to make sure you're remaining on task and demonstrating what you've learned through the content in this particular unit is, first of all, prioritizing referencing the resources that are from the unit and the theories that are from the unit before we go drawing upon other experiences and other resources. Does that make sense?
Yes, that was very well put. Thank you, Reb.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're
Yep,
welcome.
thank you.
Your word count is limited and it is valuable. So think of it in terms of, an investment. You want to get maximum return on investment for your word count. So make sure every paragraph, which is a beautiful teal paragraph with one amazing point per paragraph, is really beautifully aligned to the rubric.
All right. Any other questions about the assessment or any of the theories from this week? No. Okay, well, you can leave when you're ready, and I'll see those of you who are coming to the tutorial next. We'll see you in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Otherwise, I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Vicky. Bye.
Bye.